Hey, small group leaders, Pastor Curt here. Let's get right into it. I've got some questions for you based on foundation number 3. And here's foundation number 3. It's refocus on the future. Now, last week we talked about asking great questions that facilitate dialogue. This week, it actually could get a little emotional. And I want to remind you of one of the principles we talked about. Vulnerability begets vulnerability. If you as a small group leader will be a little bit more vulnerable, you don't have to share everything in your life, but to the extent that you're willing to open up a little bit on these questions, you're going to see other people open up. Now, we looked at 3 characters. The first one was Jochebed. Jochebed's a little known mom who gave birth to some incredible people, Moses, Aaron, and Miriam. And the whole thing about Jochebed is she had this dream that her kids wouldn't be slaves. That dream resulted in the freeing of an entire nation. And I kind of tend to think this. God gives each and every one of us kind of a core mission in life, a core dream, just something you really, really want to do. Here's a great question to start the small group off. If you were to identify one dream that you just know God wants you to do, something, well, to put it in the cultural cliche, that's a real God bucket list for you, what's that one dream? It could be as simple as this. I want to see this one child of mine succeed. It could be as simple as this. I want to start this ministry or be involved in this ministry. I want to go see or do this thing. Get your team talking about their dream. And here's the thing. Be honest about your dream. What's that one area? It hasn't happened yet, but you know in your knower that God wants you to dream it. So question number 1, what's that dream God's given you? Now, some people will have a hard time identifying that, especially new people. So here's a good follow-up question. With Hannah, her whole situation is that she was having a major discouragement issue that she brought to God in prayer. And she really broke through. Why? She poured her heart out to God. Now, that's not easy to do. So here's a great question to ask. What makes prayer hard for you? We all want to be like Hannah and really find that moment where we're just pouring our heart out to God. But sometimes, well, we fall asleep. Sometimes we have a hard time believing. Sometimes we're distracted. How do we get to that place where we're really pouring our heart out to God? That's a great question. Or another way to ask it is, what often keeps you from pouring your heart out from God? What are the interruptions in your life? What are the things that literally happen in prayer that make it hard to pour out your heart to God? Now, you can just camp on that question, all small group, and actually then spend some time praying, or give them a homework assignment. Say, this week, we're going to find one dedicated moment to really pour out our heart to God, and then come and report back on it next week in small group and see what happens. Another follow-up question that gets people talking on that same issue. When's the last time you really broke through in prayer? Have them recount, like any story that begins with this phrase, tell me about a time when. Get small group leaders, small group members talking. So just ask them, hey, tell me about a time when you really broke through in God and you unleashed your whole heart to God and something great happened. That's a really great way to build faith and talk about answered prayer. Then our last one, of course, if you remember, if you were in church this weekend, and I know as a small group leader you were, we talked about Sarah. Sarah was the person who believed a promise, and she ended up giving birth to an entire nation. And here's the whole thing. When Sarah dies, Abraham pays more than full price for her burial site because he wants to make sure that she's remembered forever. Some things, we said, are worth paying full price. Of course, Jesus did that for us. He paid full price for us. Here's a question you can ask in your small group. What's one of the things in your life that God's asking you to overpay? Where's a place where God's saying, no matter what, stay committed there? Where's that place that no matter what happens in the market, you're going to stay committed and overpay and overpay? Of course, all of us would say that's true with our kids. We're going to overpay. Like, you don't really get the return back from your kids, not financially at least, emotionally, spiritually, sure. But what are some of those areas where God's saying, you should stay committed and overpay no matter what the price? This is an area where people might open up and share about problems in their marriage, problems with their children, problems with singleness. You know, this week, Mother's Day weekend, we touched on some sensitive stuff. We touched on adoption a little bit. We touched on barrenness when you can't have kids. This would be a great place to get people to open up and say, where is that area where God's just saying, Put one foot in front of the other and stay committed no matter what the price. And then, of course, end the meeting by praying for one another. So, hey, you guys are great. 99% of this you already know. Just a few good reminders. Get those questions crafted well and get people talking. And if you can't get them to shut up, you're doing it right. So go for that, my friends. God bless you.